It's weird to talk about comic books on this channel, simply because I try to stay away from my feelings of what's happening in the comic book industry, because it would lead to the same sort of blind fury that you've seen me project into the world when it came to Star Wars. But believe it or not, I guess I'm a comic book fan. I mean, if you look at my computer room, you'll see comic books all over the walls. In recent years, Marvel has been undergoing a lot of changes, to the point of where longtime comic book fans such as myself don't really support the company. And for years, I know I've said it and many others have, if you're going to try and push an agenda, at least make new characters. Don't go screwing up the originals. Don't make Spider-Man bisexual because it would make someone on Twitter feel special. If they need Spider-Man to be bi to make them feel like their life is worth something, they're a lost cause. It's over. The fact that Wolverine and Cyclops are in a polyamorous relationship with Jean Grey now, and they're bisexual, also does not tickle my nuts with a feather. But we're gonna let it go. One of the stupidest ideas ever, dude. One of the greatest rivalries. You know, like, yeah, they're on the same team, but Wolverine and Cyclops do not see eye to eye. Why in the name of God would you write this? Because we're smoking crack is the only thing I can think of. So, let's just move on. Marvel has now introduced some new characters for the New Warriors. At first, when I heard this, I was like scratching my head like, New Warriors. Rings a bell. Not sure. I click into it, and it's the New Warriors I remember from being a kid. The New Warriors used to be edgy as hell, dude. Like, they had Night Thrasher. They had Nighthawk. Scarlet Spider was a member at one point. Nova. Speedball, he's like more comic relief. You know, I never really cared for him as a character. But during the 2000s, when the Civil War first launched, and it happened because of like the New Warriors being irresponsible and Speedball leading to like this big explosion that killed a lot of people. Then it led to the Superhero Registration Act. And now Marvel just did another Civil War to coincide with all the Marvel movies that made no sense because they're jackasses. Then you got these Marvel writers now. All right, we're on a tangent, to hell with it. We got this one chick, I can't remember her name, and she came up with like this storyline where superheroes, like, you can't be a superhero under the age of 21. So it's basically the Superhero Registration Act again. It's literally Civil War 3. And we just did Civil War 2 a few years ago, but it's not called the Civil War. But whatever, that leads to these douchebag characters. And listen, I'm fine they exist because that way these people can write their shit stories and ruin something that isn't established. You know, I don't want to see characters that are great get ruined. So make your own new hyper-woke characters and we'll all laugh when they fail. Let's go with this, forgive me.
Number one. I got interested in the New Warriors later. I remember seeing them on the shelf when I was a kid, picking up comics in the 90s and just feeling like they were too cool for me. Like, I was intimidated by, you know, Night Thrasher who had a blade coming out of his wrist.
Basically, the New Warriors in the 90s, it was like the ultra-violent 90s, all right? Back in the 90s, movies had balls. You could still see boobs in films. There were sex scenes. Characters. We had Spawn in the 90s, dude. Deadpool was created in the 90s. It was a good time. It was a good time. All right? You could have fun in the 90s. Your superheroes could kick ass in the 90s. Punisher came around. Let's just move on. Long story short, it was a good time period. Except for the fact that comic books then became like, they're worth more than stocks and bonds of gold. And then it led to the comic book recession because everybody's buying comic books under the idea that they're going to be worth a lot of money. And it's like, if you have one of Jim Lee's X-Men #1, which almost everybody who has comic books has at least one of those, you know, it sold millions of copies. Therefore, it's not worth more than dirt. We're on a whole different tangent, sorry.
You know, Nova was really buff. They were all the edgy characters for the 90s, as the cover said. New Warriors, I thought, were really interesting characters because they occupy this really cool space. They're forever young, but they've now been around for 30 years.
You know, the question I should ask is, why the hell is Speedball back to being Speedball again? Didn't he, like, lead to the Civil War, was arrested, went crazy, and then came back as like, was it Painstake or something like that? I can't remember the character's name, but his powers changed too. He then got super like dark and whatnot. He was a total 180 from his character. Let's move on.
Editors on the previous books I'd done, like Loki and Black Panther versus Deadpool, asked if I would be interested in doing a New Warriors tie-in that actually poses them as the authority figures in this conflict instead of the rebels, and I really liked the tension of that. So because the New Warriors are the authority figures in this story, they have to be mentoring New Warriors who are under 21.
Wow, what a great title. New Warriors. Ah, man, I wish I worked at Marvel. I wish I could come up with these sort of ideas. Isn't that Firestar? What the hell's that chick's name again? Whatever, I can't remember.
And subject to the laws that triggered the outlawed event, this new law is making it illegal to be a vigilante under the age of 21. The artist on New Warriors #1 is Luciano.
See that part I talked about? Illegal to be superheroes under 21. It's basically the next Civil War. So that way we can try to make, you know, the new Miss Marvel interesting and the new Young Nova and Miles Morales Spider-Man. He's already a character that's established. The other ones I kind of don't give a rat's ass about. Moving on.
Vecchio. He designed all of the new Warriors and gave them costumes that felt as modern as the New Warriors costumes to sort of feel classic and instantly familiar.
You know what's sad? I hate to say this, but this artist's art isn't that great. It's not that interesting. It's not that inspiring. The outfits are nothing special. You got the two black twins that basically completely and utterly scream. What was the two twins from DC that really sucked? Like the Wonder Twins. Yeah, those two lame-os. You basically gave us black Wonder Twins, and I'm supposed to be rock solid for this. You got Asian kid who's dressed like Cyclops, for God's sake, / Beast Boy. And we've got fat black girl and Michael Morbius ripoff. You know, like, wow! Yeah! This is edgy!
So the first character
you could find more edge in a McDonald's splork for breakfast.
That we're introduced to is TRAILBLAZER. She's a group home and foster kid who is volunteering at a senior center when this mysterious threat shows up and Thrasher runs to the rescue. And because she helps him, she ends up in the crosshairs of this new outlawed law.
You love how, like, this character right here, I don't know if she's black or Hispanic. 1 minute I thought she was black. In this photo, she looks Hispanic. And 2, let's be real, how often do you see someone who's overweight being heroic? It doesn't happen much. When's the last time you saw Boogie2988 do something remotely physical that would lead to him being exerted?
And she inherited from her grandfather a magic backpack of divine origin. We picked the name TRAILBLAZER because she's somebody who charges into action. She knows that she can do some good with this, you know, mysterious gift that she's been given.
She basically has a backpack that goes through time and space and dimensions, and she can pull stuff out at will at varying sizes. But it doesn't always work for her. I read the value. How is that a superpower? You take away her backpack, it's like another fat chick. I don't get it. I really don't get it. If I was a supervillain, I really wouldn't be, like, miffed by this. My backpack holds quite big things. This is a Glock. Bam, 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 bam. You know, it's over. Unless Thrasher comes in and beats the hell out of me.
SCREENTIME is an internet kid taken to its sort of logical conclusion. As a youth, he was exposed to his grandfather's experimental internet gas.
Oh, experimental internet gas. We have reached peak writing at Marvel. My God, if only Game of Thrones hired these guys to finish the last season, everyone would feel so much better. And plus, if this is a peak internet kid, he'd only care about Fortnite, watching thoughts, trolling, and saying okay boomer at verbatim. They basically made Beast Boy. This is Teen Titans from like Cartoon Network for Marvel. That's what we're looking at here.
And that has patched him permanently into the World Wide Web. The word SCREENTIME is only ever used in a sort of restrictive sense. And because we're doing a story about teenage rebels, a lot of the names are about teens fighting against labels that are put on them. So with SCREENTIME, we liked the idea that he has infinite screen time. Snowflake and Safespace.
What? Snowflake and Safespace. I'm sorry, I was just so confused by that last
are
name.
Twins, and their names are very similar to SCREENTIME. It's this idea that these are terms that get thrown around on the internet that they don't see as derogatory, to take those words and kind of wear them as badges of honor.
Really? If you really found two people who were willing to call themselves Snowflake and Safespace, they'd be like that really skinny Asian dude who kicked the phone out of that broad's hand. Remember? That's what you'd be dealing with. That'd be the type of superhero.
It's hard to confuse everybody.
But still, it's better to be, you want to kill him with kindness, remember?
That's right. What?
They actually have people filming you the whole time. Which is why I say kill with kindness.
Guess what? Hey.
Destruction of private property. It's against the law.
If somebody gets raped by somebody and they're like, I'm a 16-year-old and I can't have this baby. Think you should keep it?
It's a baby.
Yeah.
If someone was raped and she gave birth and she decided to kill her 3-year-old child.
I meant to get your phone!
Space is kind of a big, burly, sort of stereotypical jock. He can create force fields, but he can only trigger them if he's protecting somebody else.
What jock? On what alternate gay planet have you ever seen a jock like this? And you know what I'm talking about. I've had my ass kicked by a number of jocks in high school. None of them look like this.
Snowflake is non-binary and goes by they, them. Snowflake...
That's exactly what we need, a non-binary superhero. Marvel, you fucking suck. Like, for real, dude. It's almost like this is a joke. Like, this whole thing feels like something off of Tumblr, bro. But thank God it exists, because now they can, like, do this and not ruin characters that are established. So on one hand, I'm like, wow, you guys are really showing us how out of touch you are. And on the other hand, I'm thinking, thank God they're at least not making Spider-Man gay.
It has the power to generate individual crystallized snowflake-shaped shurikens. The connotations of the word snowflake in our culture right now are something...
You know that they came up with the ideas for the names first. And they were like, well, how can we make Snowflake work as a superhero? She makes snowflake ninja stars. Do you mean shurikens, Terry? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's it. And she's non-binary. Oh, good.
Fragile. And this is a character who is...
I'm sorry, if you're running around and call yourself non-binary and you're they, them, they, may, we, whatever, you're fragile in my book. You are. You need a special label. That screams fragile. Imagine if someone was dressed up and you were robbing a place and they were like, I'm Snowflake. Get out of my way. You stupid woman. I'm not a woman. They, them. That's how you'll address me. I'm non-binary. By the time they finished the speech, they would have caught sweet chin music from me. I'd have kicked them so hard in the jaw, Shawn Michaels would have felt it in Texas.
Turning it into something sharp. Snowflake is the person who has the more offensive power, and Safespace is the person who has the more defensive power. The idea was that they would mirror each other and complement each other. E negative.
Really, dude, I swear to God, they literally just watched an episode of the Justice League and thought, how can we come up with our own gayer Wonder Twins?
Is the goth kid. When he was a baby, he got a rogue life-saving blood transfusion, we assume from Michael Morbius. And now he has a very similar look and very similar vampire powers. B negative also is obviously a pun. It's a blood type.
Oh, no shit. You don't think we're smart enough to realize your great, like, 4D chess level writing? Of course we know it was a pun for blood, you asshole. You're not that creative. Nothing personal, but good God almighty.
Which is great for a vampire character. And it's also a proud ownership of the idea of having a bad attitude. I want the people who read our New Warriors to feel all of the excitement that they felt if they read the 90s one. We want it to have big, colorful characters, personality clashes, romance. a diverse cast, which is something that the New Warriors titles have always.
Honest to God, like, bro, how long do you think this is gonna last? Like, for real. How long before New Warriors is dead like that comic book series Zoe Quinn was writing for Vertigo? I give it a few episodes. Now, if we go here on the webpage, right? Teen living vampire exposed to Michael Morbius's blood as a child. So basically, that is canon. Whatever. But life-saving medical procedure. He's still the same age as regular kid. But all the abilities of Morbius, whatever. He's also obsessed. Do you know why they have this Morbius character? Because they're doing a Morbius movie. So that way it might drum up interest in this character. And maybe people will buy the book because Jared Leto. He also obsesses with all the music and attitude of a classic long past decades, like the 90s and the early 2000s. The world is a vampire. So am I. Oh my God, it's a reference to a Smashing Pumpkins song. Oh my God, how old? Jesus Christ. They act like the kid is listening to something from like 1930. It would have been weirder if they were like, he was quoting The Wanderer or something. B negative is a goth kid. You don't even see those anymore. Because goth is now deteriorated to buying stuff from Hot Topic and wearing gas masks like a douchebag. You know, it would have made more sense if this B negative kid was interested in The Cure. That would have been at least decent writing. You know, it would have been like, oh, B negative likes The Cure. He's obsessed with Robert Smith. Then you could see it. You know, oh, he likes, what was that band called that wrote the song Bela Lugosi's Dead? Bauhaus music, too. Not Smashing Pumpkins. There's nothing goth about Smashing Pumpkins. Just because Billy Corgan is pale doesn't make him goth. Jesus Christ. Ugh, this character art is trash. Yeah, whatever. If you ever needed more of a sign that the comic book industry is really killing itself with trying to be woke and all this other stuff, this is it. Like, this is literally the clearest sign that, hey, we're out of touch. We think you might buy this. And the answer is no. People who complain on the internet about, like, representation don't buy comic books. They're not scouring the internet and websites trying to find stuff. They literally get off on virtue signaling. Now they virtue signaled your jackasses into making a book like this. Get ready for it to be canceled, because they're not going to buy it. They never buy anything. Except for, like, drag queen music. That's it. You better get this comic book on RuPaul's Drag Race. It's the only way you'll get these assholes interested. God, I don't even know. How do you go from, like, the New Warriors of old, the literally Night Thrashers hanging out with the Punisher, and now we got this, Night Thrashers teaching a non-binary kid. What the hell's going on?